Hello, welcome to Testable Faith. I'm Jeff Zweerink, one of the scholars here at Reasons to Believe, and we're joined in studio today with Dr. David Winyard, who's a visiting scholar. David, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm an engineer. I was trained and worked as an engineer for many years for the U.S. Navy and Defense Logistics Agency. But now I'm teaching as a second career. It's an interesting switch to go from practicing engineering to teaching it. But in other ways, I feel like I'm a recovering engineer because I'm more interested in how science and technology fit into society and into Christian theology than in practicing engineering.
Well, very good. Well, so you alluded to looking at how that fits into Christian society, Christian thought. Give us a little bit of your story. When did you become a Christian? How long have you been a Christian?
Sure. God blessed me by placing me in a family that went to a good church.
Mm-hmm.
So very early in life, I learned the gospel, I learned Bible stories, and I really considered myself and my family to be Christians. The challenge was that when I got into my teens, things kind of came apart. I think everybody who grows up in a Christian family faces some issue where they really have to decide, is this real or not?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was when I was age 17. I didn't get along great with my brother. There were problems between my parents and my siblings. My parents fought a lot. And I found myself just praying, God, intervene in this situation, and nothing happened. So I had lots of doubts. So the summer that I turned 17, my father died of a heart attack, and my siblings were all living somewhere else. So I was left alone with my mother, and she was not a well person.
Okay.
I did not find that out until later. And so I was spending a lot of time with my friends. I was spending a lot of time doing my schoolwork. And she resented both of those things, which is kind of a strange thing if you want your children to have relationships and to succeed in school. So eventually she threw me out of the house. So I ended up being adopted by the family that I was spending time with. And then later on...
This is while you're 17 years old still?
Yes.
Okay, wow.
So this was just a couple months after my father had died. And then there were some financial issues that caused her to take me to court to charge me as a juvenile in need of supervision in Baltimore City, which was really a bogus kind of thing. I wasn't a juvenile. I was succeeding in high school. I had no record of any wrongdoing, but she somehow she thought that was the way ahead. And through that year, God showed me again and again that, yes, God is real. He does care about me, and he brought people into my life to work with me through that situation, to pray for me, to intervene with the authorities in one way or the other.
Wow.
And so by the time I got to my 18th birthday, I was convinced that this was all real. And I've never really felt any doubts since then. I've had my ups and downs in my Christian life, but God has always been present with me.
So you said there, as you were in high school, I presume 14, 15, 16, asking for God to intervene. Do you see those sequences of events as God intervening, or those were events that happened that God intervened to reveal who he was to you?
Well, there were interventions in that situation between me and the authorities there. A number of times, I can't even remember all of them, but there were people that showed up to help with the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it was counseling. I had to see counselors. My mother went to see counselors. And the juvenile authorities decided that there was no way I should move back in with my mother.
Okay.
And really her problem was a spiritual problem. There's verses in Hebrews that talk about not allowing a root of bitterness to grow up. And if you do allow that root of bitterness to grow up, it will essentially destroy your life. And that's really my mother's story. She had a lot of difficulties in life. We all do. Mm-hmm. But that was her story. She held on to those things. So the adoptive family that I moved in with, the Bauer family, I still consider them my family, really kind of put me together over the next 10 years. And there was one particular moment in that story. Alan Bauer, the father, was trying to help my mother and listened to her story, and he essentially said, your problem is that you're bitter. And my mother's reaction was, you're damn right I'm bitter, and I have every right to be bitter. And as a Christian, it's like, who has a right to be bitter? God is so gracious to us in every situation that we should never feel like we have a right to that. But
was there something in there that helped you recognize that bitterness and choose a different path?
I'm not sure. I did not realize at the time what was happening. It was later, after some of the dust had settled, that I could figure out what had happened and what the problems were. But I had a lot of hope in life. I was the youngest of four, and I saw my siblings succeeding in different ways. All of them went into medicine, by the way, so I consider myself kind of the black sheep engineer in the family. I saw how hard they worked.
Right.
And I was like, I'm not sure I want to work that hard. But there were a lot of things that really interested me as a child and still do. I grew up in the 60s, and the space program was really exciting to me.
Right.
And that really kind of gave me a taste for engineering and technology. Of course, at the time, the space program was always talked about in terms of science. And it wasn't until later I figured out that science is what you did when you got back from the moon.
Right.
Engineering got you there and back.
Right.
But engineering was sort of the right place for me.
In your exploring engineering, I presume you went into engineering in college. That was your studies. Your faith in Christ had become established and firm there shortly after your experiences in high school. Was there a place where you saw a conflict between science and Christianity, or did those fit together more naturally?
No, I actually went to an engineering-oriented high school, the Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. So that was a STEM school before STEM became a thing.
Right.
And I was very happy there that they had an engineering track, and so I did not have to take biology.
Okay.
I knew that there was a lot of heat over the origins of life and evolution and all of those things. So I knew there were conflicts between Christianity and the biological sciences, and I didn't want any part of that.
Okay.
So I was very happy to go into engineering and stay away from that. The irony is that later in life, when I went back to school to get my doctorate, I ended up looking at evolution going forward, transhumanism and human control of evolution. So God did not let me get away from the evolution picture entirely. So.
Oh, that's funny. So you've had a number of years between that point and this point. How have you seen? How has God played out in your life, and how's your relationship with Him looking back over the years? What's your insight there?
Well, I can see lots and lots of growth. Again, my childhood experiences were not good. I was angry a lot. I had trouble with my emotions. So about 10 years after moving in with the Bowers, I was kind of put back together and went off to school and succeeded there. But I really struggled with my identity in a sense. People sometimes would ask, well, who are you? And the first words out of your mouth is who you are. I would often say I'm an engineer first and a Christian second. It wasn't until later in my career that I really saw these things coming together. And toward the end of my work as an engineer, my work took on a spiritual aspect, because I would go into, say, a meeting where I had a particular outcome that I wanted. I felt strongly about things, but I would realize I am not in control of this situation. And so when in the book of James, where it talks about making plans and thinking about things, I remember praying a number of times before going into a meeting that, Lord, just be in this situation and let me be who you want me to be, whatever the outcome is. So, they don't teach you the spirituality of engineering in engineering school.
That makes sense. Yeah, I can see that.
But life teaches you that, and so it's really a privilege now to teach engineering in a Christian school, so I can tell those stories, and I have an audience that understands that there are more important things than just technical know-how.
So if you could go back and tell yourself, somebody who's going into engineering, thinks about Christianity, is inclined to think Christianity is true or is a Christian, but is really focused on the engineering, is there a piece of advice or something you've learned that you wish you knew back then?
Sure. I've come to realize more and more that the Great Commandments really kind of relate to science on the one hand and engineering on the other. That science reveals the wonders of creation or the wonders of God's work, and it really facilitates our worship of Him. But engineering and other applications of science, that's how we help other people. That's how we solve their problems. And we're solving those problems for this world, but people need hope. And by having solutions to their illnesses or to their physical needs or reducing the labor of life, engineering and medicine and the applications really help us to love our neighbors.
Well, thanks, David. I appreciate that. Thanks for joining us on our episode today. I would encourage you to go to reasons.org, search for David Winyard, and you'll find access to more of the resources that he has produced that show how engineering and Christianity fit well together.